Hi, I'm Kenny, and I'm going to talk about political correctness. But first, to define political correctness, I'm sure we all know of it, but don't know what it means. The Princeton University edition of political correctness is the avoidance of expressions or actions that can be perceived to exclude, marginalize, or insult people who are specifically or socially disadvantaged or discriminated against. There, of course, is the urban definition from urbandictionary.com. See bullshit. Basically, political correctness creates this form of thinking which can stifle another's opinion. This can be seen, one, because political correctness is widespread. It's all over the place. You can't escape it. And two, political correctness targets specific groups regarding to race, gender, age, all sorts of different things. And three, political correctness protects certain groups, and these groups are then allowed to vary from being politically correct with no consequence. Start with my first point, political correctness everywhere. In 1998, the AAA has revoked Louis Ann Yamanaka's award for her novel Blues Hanging, about her native Hawaiian society. It gained certain praise such as powerful, arresting, brilliance. It was loved everywhere. But her award was revoked due to the fact that one minor Filipino character offended a large group of Filipinos. They then deemed the book racist. In 1999, David Howard, a top aide to a D.C. mayor, Anthony A. Williams, used the word niggardly in a discussion with a black colleague. He was then fired and forced to apologize. Niggardly has nothing to do with the word nigger, and it means to be reluctant to give, to be stingy or cheap in money. Which this then brings me to my second point. The PC targets specific groups regarding to race and age and gender. The Don Imus event is a perfect example of this, in which he used the words nappy-headed hose to describe the women's basketball team, the Rutgers, on one of his radio broadcasts. He was then forced to apologize, he was then fired, and just now recently he's only been able to come back with a very short leash. However, if you turn on any number of rap songs, you're bound to find all sorts of racial slurs and slurs against women, and but these same rappers have never had to forcefully apologize or publicly apologize for anything like Don Imus had to. This brings me to my third point, that political correctness protects certain groups, and that these groups then vary from political correctness with no consequence, such as Al Gore's former campaign manager, Donna Brazell. She once stated that we need to beat the Republicans and their white boys. She's a black woman. She then tried to refer to it as white boy attitude, and then stated that all the Republicans have no love and no good in their hearts. This offends numerous black Republicans who are very charitable, some of which I can't name right now. But another example of this would be Spike Lee. In 1991, in an interview with the magazine Esquire, he publicly stated his disgust for interracial relationships. But 1 year before, he made the movie Jungle Fever, a movie about an interracial relationship between a black man and a white woman. Spike Lee has never been asked to explain himself or apologize or anything. His disgust insults people like the chairman of the NAACP, who is married to a white woman. He also goes against several laws and that people have fought to get rid of, things like Jim Crow laws. But the truth is, if, say, someone like Martin Scorsese, the same director who's also influential, were to make the same statements, he would have to then publicly apologize, probably hold an outreach program, and then, only then, would he be able to come back to work. But Spike Lee has never been made to do any of that at all. In short, political correctness creates this form of thinking that will just stifle people's opinions, certain people's opinions, actually. Because, one, it's all over the place. Two, it targets these specific groups. And three, it protects these certain groups. And these groups are then allowed to vary from being politically correct while others aren't.
All right, the subject's clear. I could pick out the proposition at the beginning of the speech because we talked about this a little bit before, but I think you want to highlight it a little bit more for an audience that hasn't heard you discussing this before. You did, however, have a very clear layout of what the supporting structure was going to be, so there's an excellent preview, and you signposted those points as you went through the argument pretty clearly. I thought that the attempt to define political correctness and then the kind of ridicule of that definition was okay, an illustration of the disdain that you have for the concept, although it still is a little vague as to what's going to constitute political correctness. Most of your evidence is example evidence. You've got cases or illustrations where certain things are being done that they seem to be good examples of political correctness or issues that are problematic. And I thought you did a very good job on the examples. You're not always citing the sources of those examples, but you did have the examples. I don't think there's much dispute. Most people probably heard about the Don Imus thing. That was a big political issue, whatever it was, 2 years ago, a year ago, something like that. So it was in the media, covered quite extensively. But other issues are not being cited. And again, I don't think there's much dispute about the examples that you're presenting, but you want to have more complete citation. I think that there's an absence of information that allows us to draw a broader generalization. Is there widespread statistical support? Public opinion surveys, for instance, although they're not really useful for issues of fact, since you're making an argument about public opinion and the way people perceive these issues, maybe some data on that would be useful here. There's no authority being quoted on this. There's sociologists, anthropologists, political scientists, and historians who have spoken on these issues, and I think you could add to the credibility of your argument by citing some of those sources also. The generalizations are okay as far as they go. Like I said, they seem like they might be a little bit narrow because you're so dependent on example evidence. The pacing's a little bit awkward. I thought you had very good audience contact. The conclusion seems to be a little bit abrupt, even though I do know that you're kind of giving a summary there. And so you've got a good clear structure, you've got a clear claim, your evidence is maybe a little narrow. Thank you.